Right, well we're here today, we're on Moors Pool up at Cudmore Fisheries, which coincidentally it's one of the venues used in this year's semi-final for the Fishermania. So what I've been doing the last few weeks, I've been up here practicing a lot, and I thought it'd be good to bring the cameras up here just to show how different the approach needs to be in approaching these new commercials. So this is a relatively newly dug lake, it's only a couple of years old. So the type of fish you're after here is quite unique. I've not been to a venue like this for a long time, in that the predominant species are decent skimmers, lots of tench, lots of crucians, lots of eyed. And it's a long way away from the usual F1 and carp lakes that we've been fishing. But what I want to go through today is to show you how I've just tweaked my approach on snake lakes, just to try and get the optimum amount of fish feeding for these small fish, and the little changes that I make to catch the optimum amount of bonus fish as well. So what I'm going to run you through today is how I've been approaching these lakes and what I feel is about right. As I said, I'm keeping things very simple still, as always with all my fishing, and it is only a slight tweak to the way that I'm usually fishing my snake lakes. So what I've found best, definitely without a doubt, all the fish are living on that far slope. That's the best place to be. What I'm finding down the middle, with it being a snake lake, as I've said before, when you get to that middle trough, there's lots of silt. Even with this being only a couple of years old, there's still lots of silt on that bottom track. So by keeping on the far slope, I'm keeping away from the silt and I'm getting much better bites with no fizzing. So it's really important to get over there and get the fish feeding properly on a nice clean bottom. So because of that, as I said, rigs are dead simple. I'm keeping with the three general pellet rigs that I'd use in most situations for tapping soft or hard pellets on commercials, just with everything's fine-tuned a little bit. So I'm having rigs, what I'm finding best, have rigs set at 2 foot, 2.5 foot and 3 foot. That's within a metre of each other. I'm starting half a metre off the far bank, working a metre towards me. So I've got 3 lines within that same area that I can keep skipping about in. That's what I want to go through today, is show you how, by covering all 3 areas, I can keep catching different fish off the 3 areas and show you where's best to be at what time of the day, depending on what's happening. So we'll see what goes from there. Right, first thing I just want to touch on quick, I just want to go through the rigs, only very briefly, but I still want to talk about the rigs that I'm using for whatever area of the canal. All floats are the same. I've got little tiny slim wire stem with a slim bristle float. These are ISF3s. So I have a 4x12s, a 4x14s and a 4x10s. They're my 3 rigs for covering the different depths. All the rigs are pretty much shotted exactly the same, just with strung out shotting. So the shotting's very much like a canal style thing, where I'm after fishing all the way through the water. I want to catch everything. I want to catch fish as my bait's going through, and I want to have the best of both with a few bites on the bottom as well once my rig has settled. So as I said, I've got those 3 rigs, all identical, just with 10-inch variances between the depth. Obviously, the bigger the float, the deeper the water. Elastic's dead light, single 6 is the best. You know what I mean? Without a doubt, there's no better last than a single solid 6 for getting these silverfish out nice and quickly. So I've got that on all my top kits. They've got 0.15 mainline, which I wrote about before, a nice robust mainline. Finished with no 10 hook length with an 18 hook. I find to begin with an 18 is about right, a nice little that's a B911 18. So I've got something with a bit of poke to it. If I need to, and I need to pull a little bit harder, I'll swap to a 16. So these small fish aren't quite as fussy when it comes to the size of your hook, and a little bit of a bigger hook can just allow me a bit more allowance, if you like, to ship back a little bit quicker and get them fish in the net a bit faster. On the subject of shipping back, with us catching a lot of fish, what I'm after today is probably, the target weight's probably around 40 to 50 pound, and for that I'm going to need 200 plus fish. So it's a lot of fish you're going to catch in 5 hours. What's really important, just to give you an edge in everyone, is how you have your roller set as well. So when I've got my roller set and I'm fishing, my pole is where your sock would be. I'm not a fan of pole socks. I'd only use a pole sock if it's windy and I've got to look after my pole, or maybe if I've got a sloping bank behind me and I've got to stop it from going in the lake. But for a normal fishing session, nice flat bank like this, I want my pole right above my knee so I can ship nice and smoothly through, and as soon as it's off my roller, I'm touching my leg and I'm right through my peg. Yeah, it allows me to be really efficient, so I'm not having to look at what's going on behind me when I've hooked a fish. I can hook a fish, ship back, get it in the net. So there's far too much going on in front of me for me to be messing about with whether my pole's going to be on my rollers or not. So I know it's a little thing to mention, but trust me, it will make a huge difference when you're catching them big numbers of fish to have the correctly spaced roller. The last thing I want is to have a roller all the way down here. Yes, it's good for looking after your pole, and on a windy day, why not? But if you can, get your pole up and be nice and efficient, really quick getting them fish in. It will make a big difference. Right, first thing I want to touch on, I just want to go through the rigs that I'm going to use for today. So they're very simple and very similar to what I'd use for my soft pellet fishing, in that there are 3 stages on the far slope. So even whatever type of fishing I'm doing on a snake lake or up to an island, those slopes are the most important place to fish. Well, as I've said before, the middle track is where all all the silt, all the rubbish accumulates, and it's very, very difficult to fish over that during the summer because the fish root about and they're really after the bait, which causes a lot of problems with silt staring up on the bottom, bubbles, foul hookers and missed bites. It's really not worth fishing down there if you can help it. So all my effort's going to be concentrated in this case on that far bank slope. So what I've got those 3 rigs at 3 different depths to cover each area of that slope, whatever I think might be best. So I have a ISF float, which are nice little slim wire stem floats with a little tiny bristle that settles really quickly, so I'm fishing as soon as I put my rig in pretty much. I've got a 4x14s, 4x12s and a 4x10s, and they're simply set at 3 foot, 2.5 foot and 2 foot. Yeah, they cover probably an area. I'm starting half a metre off that far bank, coming a metre back towards me. Those 3 rigs cover that nice area. As you see, because it's only a foot difference between the 3 rigs, a foot combined, it's quite a nice gradual slope that I'm actually fishing on, which is ideal. That's really what I want to be fishing on. That gives me a nice clean bottom that's still sloping, that allows the fish to pick up individual particles off the bottom without them getting involved in that silt, as I said, which happens at the bottom. So what I want to go through quickly, so I'll talk about a few little bits of my rig. So for every single rig, I'm on number 6 elastic. It is without doubt the best elastic for up here. There's no really big bonus fish that are going to cause any problems with that. And it also allows me to hook a fish, regardless of what it is, and ship back as fast as I possibly can. So every couple of seconds with each fish that I catch, if I can make a couple of seconds up, it gives me a lot of time at the end of the match. Because of that as well, I need my roller set very specifically so I can be as efficient as possible. So I'm never a fan of having these rollers really low down. All right, yes, you need to do it occasionally to look after your pole if it's too windy, but if there's no wind like it is today, then I want a nice high up pole that's set just above my knees that I can be really smooth and efficient with, and I can be in and out as quickly as possible. Yeah, it allows me to not have to look at my rollers. I can literally put my pole on the roller, push it all the way back, and I can concentrate what's going on in front of me instead of shipping back nice and slow, making sure my pole goes on the right place. I don't want to be doing that. I want to be straight back, fishing the net, back out for the next one. So having my rollers set correctly allows me to be a little bit quicker than the bloke next to me and get in and out that little bit faster, give me a bit more time at the end of the day. So as I say, I've gone through those 3 rigs. They're all set up pretty much similar. I've got a single 6 elastic, 0.15 main line, 0.10 hook length to an 18 hook. So I've got an 18 B911 on every single hook. I'll generally start with an 18, and if it gets really good, I'll swap to a 16. So 16 will allow me to just be a little bit quicker, pull them a little bit harder, get them up and get them in that net a bit faster. But to begin with, a nice 18, say the shotted on them all, it's very similar to like caster fishing on a canal. Every single rig has just got strung out shotting, with the 4x10s is shotted with strung out 11s, the 4x12s is shotted out with shotted with strung out 10s, and the 4x14s, that's also shotted with a couple more strung out 10s. So in every case, it gives me a nice slow fall, catching fish through the water and on the bottom as well. So I'm getting the best of both worlds. Right, the next thing I want to touch on is a bit of feeding. So feeding could not be simpler with how I'm going to approach all this line. I'm going to feed every line at once, but I'm also going to feed the deepest line as a bonus fish line. So I'm going to feed 2 different baits. The only 2 baits that I'm interested in for this are worms and casters. I don't believe there's anything else that can catch small fish as fast as these 2 baits can. So that's what I've chosen to approach that far bank with. So what I've done my worms though, that's the quite important thing. The casters, they're going to get fed with the catties, so that's nice and simple. The worms, on the other hand, they're only going to get fed on my deep line. I'm going to feed them where the water's the deepest, where it seems to be, just through previous sessions, the most bonus fish, such as skimmers and barbel and some bigger tench as well, they seem to like that slightly deeper water. But again, not where it's dropped off into the deep. They want it in that nice incline, right on the deepest point, just before it drops. So on that line, I'm going to feed some worm. I've chopped up plenty of worm, and I've added 70% peat and 30% topsoil to that. What that gives me, the topsoil creates a really hard mix that goes down. If fed on its own, it's a really, really hard mix that goes down, and it could roll because I'd have to feed it in a ball. Because I'm feeding peat, it still creates that hard mix that'll get to the deck, but because it's such a soft, quick breakdown mix, it'll break down as soon as it gets there and prevent it rolling down the slope. So if I were to feed a hard ball, there's a chance it could roll down towards me and be in a different area of my peg. Because this is nice and sloppy, it's going to go right to the bottom without too much cloud, without drawing fish off the deck, but still stay in place, stay right where I need it to be to catch them bonus fish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to whiz some goggles on quickly. And at the beginning, I'm just going to feed that deeper line. I'm not going to feed too much. I'm going to feed one nice little ball not more, a bit of a mush really, of those worms. And I may feed that once, I may feed that once every hour. It depends what's happening, depends how many bonus fish I catch off it. I'll always assume that there's some there unless I've caught fish off the line. And this is going to get fed on my deepest swim, which is right at the limit of my 13 metres. And I'm just going to plonk that in there. That's going to be the shortest line that I fish. Also, that's my bonus fish line. Now, the other two lines, they're situated at 13 metres and at the end of my dolly butt. And the last line in the shallowest water, that's at 14.5 metres. That's with an extra section, right, not towards the back of the canal, but right in the shallowest water where I've got about, let's say, 2 foot. That's what I'm going to go into. So my other two lines, they're just going to get fed with loose fed casters. I'm not going to feed them with any worms whatsoever. I want the fish to be in one place that want to eat worms. And on the other lines, I want all the small fish that I'm going to wade through while I'm trying to fill in the gaps in between the bonus fish. So those two lines, they're just going to get fed with loose fed casters. So when I feed my casters, I'm spreading them over all three of my lines. Yeah, there's a big line of casters going from that 13 metre all the way back to 14.5 metres to the back of the canal. So I'm covering a big area with a small amount of loose feed. What that does, it gives a great big area for the fish to swim in and out in, and it also allows me to skip around my peg. I can fish plenty of different depths and areas of my peg and take fish from each area without spooking the whole shoal. So the more accurate I'm feeding, yes, it's great, it creates competition for the bait and gets me more bites, but the fish can be a bit spooky. So when I'm after large numbers of small fish, I want a great big shoal of fish that I can pick off all different areas and keep the shoal on my peg and feed him for as long as possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a quick whiz on my middle rig. So the middle rig's always the safe one to start on. That's the one set at, in this case, about 2.5 foot, which is a 4x12 float, so just with strung out number 10s. That'll give me a nice slow fall, but it'll get down fairly quickly. All my shots in the bottom half of my rig, and it'll get down quite quickly. And hopefully I should be coming back with a fish quite regularly with this. What really is important, because I'm expecting a lot of bites, is to not almost strike at too many indications. It's a big thing with small fish like this to make sure I always come back with a fish. Have a little look at that, something's not right with that. Not right. But yeah, if you're in too much of a rush and you're striking at every single little bite, you can spend a lot of time putting your rig in and out your peg. Whereas by being a tiny bit more patient, a couple of seconds more patient, waiting for that positive bite, you ensure that you're back with a fish. So what I'm after really is I want to fish every minute. That's going to be my target, catch fish every minute. That should give me a weight in the region of 40 to 50 pounds over the course of 5 hours, which is what it'll take for me to, what we think we'll need to get through to the semi-final for the fish show final. I'm just going to carry on feeding those casters for now. I'm going to keep feeding them all the way through my lines, and hopefully once I've had probably half an hour on this rig, caught a few fish, I'll be able to move to the other lines and show you what other fish we can catch on them. Right, so I've been on this rig probably about 15 to 20 minutes now, and there's plenty of bites and there's a lot of fish, but after catching, I've had an initial spell of those like 4 and 5 ounce side, but now I'm finding that every other, or even 2 out of 3, is a small fish. I'm catching a small perch or a much smaller hide. I'm also foul hooking the odd fish, so this one's not in the mouth, I don't think. That's come off. So what I'm going to do straight away, I'm going to swap my rigs. Instead of trying that shallower water, which if I was fishing shallow, that's exactly what I'd do. If I was catching deeper, the fish were too small, or I was foul hooking them as I was doing there, I'd move into the shallower water. What I want to try first, just before I do push them into that shallower water, I already know there's plenty of fish in my swim and they'll be happy to go over there. But just for a quick check, I'm going to have my first go on my bonus fish line, just to see what's happening. So I'm going to nick a little worm head off there. Pay limp. I'm just going to have a quick go at 13 metres just to see if there's any bigger fish holding on that slope. So I don't want to ship to me full length. So I'm right on the start of my casters here, so hopefully what you find with little fish, they'll all go right into the main feed area of casters, if you like. So the little fish should be straight on where the bulk of the casters are landing. Hopefully, because I'm on the closest point here on this line, there should be a few less bites than the smaller fish because they're all further across, which will leave the big fish, oh, get a bite then, leave the big fish in a bit of peace. So hopefully there'll be a few decent fish settled on that. I'm never expecting to catch big numbers of bonus fish. I'm just after one or two, here we go, one or two decent skimmers, maybe a carp, maybe just a few of them bigger eyed, just in the quieter spells while he calmed down further across. So that's back to that better size eyed. A bit small that one, but that worm's all right. I'm literally just going to give this 3 casts and see what happens, or 3 fish ideally. And just by having that really quick look at it, what I'm trying to do is determine, by passing through all 3 of my lines within the first 40 minutes, I can determine where the fish want to be, what fish want to be where, and where I'm best spending my time. Again, there's a lot of fish on that line. There are back to these slightly bigger eyed on this worm, but still there's a definite lack of bonus fish at the moment. But half an hour into the session, that's definitely not a problem. Back in with that bit of worm. See, what is very important is that I never lose that fish catching rate, if you like, regardless of what line I'm fishing, whether it's the bonus fish line or further across. I'm never spending too much time on a line not catching fish. Yeah, I've got to be instant to move. If I'm not coming back with a fish, the maximum of every 2 minutes, then I'm not going to be putting enough weight in my net. So I have to move in order to keep them fish coming. It's nice and fast on this line, but the lack of bonus fish is definitely worrying me. Just going to give it one more go with a bit of a larger piece of worm on. See, I definitely feel that if there's huge numbers of small fish there, then there's not much chance of a big fish either being there or getting the chance of getting to my bait anyway. So I may as well move back over to my casters and be a little bit quicker if that's what I'm going to do. Or if that's what's happening in my peg. See, definitely not happy with that. That's a small fish as well. So straight away I'm going to come off this line and move on to my shallow line. So that's within that first half hour, I've fished all 3 of my lines. I've still managed to put a few fish in my net. I've still put probably 5 or 6 pound in my net in that first half hour, which is well on my way to probably a 10 pound an hour target. What I would like is just to make my life a bit easier, is just to find a few big fish that mean I can relax a little bit and I'm not going to be quite as quick. Right into that shallowest water now. See, definitely not having to worry about plenty of fish today. There's a lot of bites. See, and that's twice as big as the eyed I was catching on the worm. Which means I have to catch half as many fish in the same amount of time. Which makes my life a lot easier just by skipping over them 3 lines. So you really would think it wouldn't... You wouldn't think that just swapping between the depths would make that much of a difference. But fish can be ever so fussy on days when literally the difference between 6 inches in depth, they can simply not want to be in that depth for whatever reason. Just want to make sure I'm not striking at too many bites. We can all be guilty of striking and trying to go a little bit too quick. Slow things down a bit, make sure I'm coming back with that fish. Again, it's a much bigger fish than we were catching on the worm. Right, we'll continue with this for another 10 or 15 minutes and then see what we need to move to next. So because there's so many small fish on that worm line, I do have to keep thinking that it may need topping up with a little bit of worm every now and again, just to make sure there's something there for when the big fish do turn up. So, but for now, I'm happy. I'm going to try and put 4 or 5 pound in the net off this before I move off it. Little crucian. We'll see how things go. Oh, right. Well, I've been on the middle line for quite a while now, and I've caught plenty of eye, but there's been a right lack of bonus fish today for some reason. But what I've done, I've literally just moved up into that shallower water. First chuck I've had a skimmer, about 10 out. And then second chuck we've got this on, which is a little tench of about £1. I say it's took a while. It took an hour or so for the species to change, if you like. But by working a peg, I've still managed to put plenty of fish in it. I've probably put 15 to 20 pound of fish in the net of the small fish. But now there's definitely a pattern forming that for today the fish want to be in the shallow water. Not quite what I expected. As I said at the start, I thought they'd be the bigger fish should definitely be in that deeper water. But say by having those 3 rigs within a very confined area, it's still giving me a really clear understanding, and it's letting me always make the most of where the fish want to be. I'm never going to lose touch in the fish. I can work out very quickly where they want to be, and that helps me make the most of my peg. Hopefully what I've been through today, I'll just tell you a little bit about what we're planning on doing here on Moors, during the semi-final, and it'll help a little bit towards your silver commercial fish during the summer.